to thank CII, Tata Communications Center for Digital Transformation, and in principle CII for extending this opportunity to share our experience and thoughts on the topic of collaborative commerce. Myself, Gaurav Malik, you can also call me Gary, and I represent Successive Technologies as introduced by the CDT team. And today I'm joined with Mr. Shahzad Awan, who comes from MarketCube. Shahzad, you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, hi. My name is Shahzad Awan. I am the CEO for MarketCube.io, which is a leading cloud marketplace automation platform. And oh, sorry, and it's a leading marketplace platform that is globally available in about 86 countries. And we've been in business trying to promote collaborative commerce for some time now. And today the talk is going to be very much about explaining what our thought processes are around that and giving you an understanding of how the e-commerce world is changing and what part you can play and we are playing.
Thank you. Welcome, Shahzad, to this session.
Right. Thank you very
All
much.
right. So the topic for today's masterclass is in collaborative commerce is in the age of digital transformation. What does that mean? So let me ask very first question to you, Shahzad, and I'll be kind of moderating in and out while you're speaking about collaborative commerce. So just for the sake of audience, how would you define collaborative commerce in the layman's term so that the participants get a better understanding about what we are going to cover in this session today?
So collaborative commerce is a category that we're defining, which sits on top of traditional commerce. The idea of collaborative commerce is very simple, that when businesses, two or more businesses that work together can offer more value and more choice to the customers, essentially creating more revenue streams for themselves. So collaborative commerce is all about how businesses can work together in this new age to obviously better their commerce goals.
Okay, thank you, Shahzad. So I would like to take this opportunity for Shahzad to probably share his screen and start explaining further in terms of what collaborative commerce is, what is happening in the industry, what are the trends, and how are we solving the problems through MarketCube.
Sure. Right. So let me know when you can see my screen, and I'll move it onto a slideshow. Are you able to see my screen?
Yes, I can.
Great.
Indeed.
Thank you very much. Right. So let's start on the collaborative commerce. So what is it? And we'll start again and start walking through our thought processes. So as we mentioned a little bit earlier, collaborative commerce is a way for multiple businesses to work and grow together to offer more choice and value to the end customers. This is whilst reducing their operational overheads and costs and making the world a more sustainable place. And there's a lot of things highlighted here, which I'd like to start unpicking as I'm starting to go through this. If we look at commerce as has happened through the ages, traditionally speaking, right? If you remember that you could go into a bazaar or somewhere and you'd go to somebody and you'd say, can I have this? And he'll say, well, I don't have it, but he will send somebody around the back and go to another shop, bring it back to you, and they would sell that item to you. But behind the scenes, what they've done is they've created a collaboration with another business and they've offered value to the customer, right? In the digital age, that is possible, but it's only becoming possible now. That's collaborative commerce in a nutshell. And the more businesses that can connect, the better the value for the end customer.
So let me
But what I
ask you this,
also,
Shahzad. What you
yes,
mean to say is I can sell something which I don't have in my inventory
yes,
by connecting to other businesses,
yeah.
and then I can basically do a drop shipping the way Amazon does, basically, correct?
Because there is a big problem there, right? So if you look at how businesses traditionally grew, right, they were limited by the size of their warehouse, right? They would get stuff in and put it there. If they couldn't put more stuff in, or they could not invest more in the stock and everything else, they couldn't expand. But if you were selling stuff that somebody else had and you were taking a commission on it, but you were sharing the sale At the end of the day, the customer just wants a value. They want to be able to buy something. They want to have more choice. And this actually does two things. One, the customer gets the benefit, obviously. But on the flip side, what happens is that you start reducing your operational overheads, right? You start reducing cost, dead stock, all that kind of stuff. But also think about this thing that is starting to really play out for the last couple of years, which is about sustainability. It's about, the making our planet a better place. If you reduce the amount of logistics that are going to happen, right? If there's stuff moving from one warehouse to another warehouse to the customer and all that, you're reducing all of that extra effort that's being put into logistics. You're actually making things more sustainable. This also means that when you think about how we've grown up in the last, in the last decade, I would say, is there's been waves of things that have happened, right? Things have happened, and then it's caught on, and then digitally it's exponentially grown. So before I go on to kind of explaining a couple of other things, what I'd like to do is to make a little statement and then back it up with a lot of words. So being collaborative is human nature and how we all grow. And this is very true for people who now understand social media and the impact of social media, right? Social media grew by the very simple thing that humans need to connect, right? When they connect and they collaborate, they do great things. And the more people that can connect, the wider the reach. Now, traditionally, before social media, you would have realized the fact that, you would have a small community in your local area, in your local city, and your scope was limited. And then you went on the internet and then you found a billion other people there and you started finding niches. And that has grown exponentially over the last few years. And specialisms have appeared. So you've got social context islands in Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and YouTube and so on. And there are people who are producing these contents. These are not big powerhouse enterprises. These are businesses that have been born on these platforms by collaboration, right? By being working together. This has also given rise to social commerce, which is people, influencers have huge followings and they're able to support brands and sell brands to their engaged community. And now brands are realizing that they need to be engaged with these influencers to be able to get their message across. It's no longer about having a big billboard or the best TV advert. It's about being with the right people who can talk about your product. But that's borne on by the ability of collaboration, pretty much. Now, if you take that context into where we are today with a lot of these marketplaces that you see on the screen, eBay, Amazon, Flipkart, you name all of these are big islands of connected communities, right? They've built their ecosystems. They have thousands of sellers who push their products into their ecosystem so that a customer, when it comes onto their side, has one thing, choice. They can go to that platform and say, I want something. They will get 100 items thrown at them and they will buy. Now, the problem has been that these platforms, whilst the social platforms have been very open and have been free and have allowed people to join, the commerce platforms generally haven't. And all the big platforms that you see today have built their own internal islands, right? So if you wanted to join eBay, you have to go in and be a part of eBay's brand. You're not a brand in eBay. You're a brand in eBay, but you don't have your own identity. Your identity is limited to eBay or Amazon or so ever. But the thing that has stopped this happening for your average business or other businesses is the fact that they haven't had the technology or the means to be able to create a platform where they can invite third-party sellers in. They can create a community around their niche and then go out to market and offer more value to their customers.
Thank you,
So,
Shazad. Let me
yeah.
put a follow-up question for the audience. So, for example, if I'm a business where I'm selling some products, right? I can obviously do it through my channels, offline and online, through my own inventory. But I can also open up channels on Amazon and eBay. Why would
Yes.
I set up a separate marketplace for myself? What would be the benefits of setting up our own marketplace versus registering with Amazon?
So as I mentioned earlier, right? So Amazon, for example, is the brand. So when you go and buy from Amazon, you're buying from Amazon. You're not buying from your brand. And you don't have much control on your brand either, right? So if I was to put in, I don't know, a really nice brand, it's a very expensive brand, and then when somebody searches for my type of product, I'm paired up against a Chinese product, which is 10 times cheaper than my product. I don't have any leverage in that space to say I'm a better brand, right? And a number of people that we speak to generally tend to talk about the same thing. They want brand equity. They want to be able to convey their message in their way to their engaged community with sellers that sell their kind of stuff. They don't want to be in, I don't want to be in an everything marketplace. I want to be in a marketplace that represents me and my community. And that's probably the reason why businesses need to think about moving into a collaborative commerce model, because they can bring third-party sellers in, but they can also control the narrative around their brand, right? Which is probably the biggest things that's driving people towards um, marketplaces. But the one thing that we've learned over the last few years is that marketplaces, or when you're working in this kind of collaborative fashion, it tends to work when there is a clear theme around it, right? There's a good niche around it. So whether it's fashion or whether it's to do with jewelry or whatever, but people will come to those engaged communities, and you can create communities outside to drive people into that, safe space. It's very much on brand, and I think that seems to resonate quite a lot. But if you also now look at people like Walmart, for example, are going into their own marketplaces. But the big players right now, the likes of Amazon and eBay and everything else, they have ecosystems, and you have to exist in their ecosystems, right?
Right.
And this is where they've built up the technology over the years. They don't give you they don't give you their technology to build on. They just give you their technology to operate in against their brand. So what we're seeing is that there's a certain amount of democratization that needs to happen to allow any kind of business to be able to move into this space. Okay. Has you lost my screen by any chance?
Yeah, we are seeing your browser right now.
Okay, I don't know what happened there, but I think it has
You
moved
might go to
somewhere.
unshare and reshare again.
Yes. Okay. I think let
Okay.
me just.
You're also on mute now, Shazad.
Here.
Yeah,
This
there you
is
go.
this is where technology has an issue, as as always. Um,
Again, you're on mute, Shazad.
is it good now?
Yes.
Okay, cool. Right. So, as I was saying earlier, I think the one thing that as you mentioned earlier, the question was around how do we compete with the big brands, or why wouldn't we go to the big brands? Because they have an engaged community, they have millions of users, they have all of that stuff. But
Yeah.
the problem is that there are three types of businesses within this space. There's a very large business that wants to be able to augment and bring in more inventory and choice for their customers. So they will go out and look for particular types of vendors or suppliers to offer more choice. There are others who want to create engaged communities around a theme and want to create a marketplace, but they don't want to be part of an everything marketplace. And then there are the everything marketplaces, which is your small traders almost. The profile is generally of smaller traders. They have a few items they will put up and they will try to sell. But what they're not trying to do is to build a brand. They're not trying to build a long-term brand. I mean, as we know, this tends to be a theme as well now, that Amazon does its own Amazon products, and it has the data to be able to work out what's working well, and it will create its own offerings, and they also compete with your own offering. So there's little control in that space, as
Right.
much as we would like. But if I go back slightly, I think it would be good to just talk about the evolution of commerce, which I think it's an important
Yeah.
area that we need to kind of think about. So
Are you
if you
going
give
to
me,
reshare your screen?
I am trying to, for some reason, it's decided to um, go off for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, but I'm trying to get it back at the moment anyway. So I'll if you give me one
Okay.
second, I will.
So while you try that, let me also key in some of the points that Shazad was saying. I think the other lens to look at opening up your own marketplace is your margins. So when you place your product within your channels, you're able to sell at a higher margins. And
Yes.
people are connected to your brand. People buy from brand. People buy from people. So you're able to have that personal connections. You can send your personalized offers.
Yes.
While otherwise, if you're doing it on eBay or Amazon, you're at their mercy on the pricing war as well, right? A lot of times you might be forced to list your product at a lower price, and that is why we get better deals in some of those
Yes.
marketplaces. But here you have full control. Yeah, we are back online on your screen
Okay,
now.
cool. So I will leave it like this mainly because I'm a bit worried that it might go off again. Um,
Sure, we can see it.
so and we've started moving and started talking about marketplaces, which is essentially a part of the whole collaborative commerce. And I'll explain how collaborative commerce sits as an umbrella on top of marketplaces. But marketplaces generally, as we mentioned earlier, with regards to social and everything else, they harness the power of network effects, right? So the more people that join the network, the more valuable it becomes, and the more people want to use it. And this is the reason why they grow exponentially. And this is probably why we see explosive growth when you see marketplaces everywhere now. So you've got your not just your Amazons and your Flipkarts, but you've got people like Uber, and you've got, Deliveroo, and the Food Panda, and all of these. These are all marketplaces. Anytime you connect to another business to provide a value to your customers, you are creating a marketplace. But you're also creating a collaborative environment in which you exist with another business in order for the customer to be able to drive value. But when we go one level up and we start talking about collaborative, a lot of people assume that marketplaces are dropshipping, right? And marketplaces are not just drop shipping. Marketplaces are connecting with third party suppliers in a way that would benefit them as in you as well. So drop shipping is essentially a model where you send an order to you collect an order from your customer. The customer sends an order to your vendor. The vendor ships it directly to your customer. But there are other models whereby there's a consignment model which allows a vendor to send stuff back to you, and then you send it out to the customer. Now there are lots of models starting to appear around the consignment. For example, re-commerce, right? The sharing
Yeah.
economy is starting to really pick up. So secondhand clothing, or that kind of a model is consignment, because people will send the stuff into the marketplace, who will check the stuff for quality and everything else, and then publish them. There's also another outreach, which is something that tends to happen um, more within omni-channel a kind of world at the moment, whereby people will basically allow you to click and collect, so you can order online and pick up in store, that kind of thing, but tends to happen within the confines of your own organization. And within MarketCube, for example, we have built all of these models. We built a click and collect for a vendor-based model. So you can order online and pick it up in store or locally. So imagine a world where you're in the US, and you want to buy something from a local store in India so that your family could pick it up. How would you do that? Collaborative commerce through click and collect, right? That is now possible to do. But those use cases are not well known enough yet, right? If you think about, for example, malls, right? So the malls have the ability, they have hundreds of vendors or shops on site. They have a big estate, they have an engaged community that they drive footfall to, but they never do any commerce on their own sides. All they do is they drive a lot of campaigns to drive people to go into the malls. But what if you could, as a mall owner, drive click and collect straight into the stores and drive footfall? That's obviously possible through MarketCube as well. But these are collaborative models this is not just a marketplace, right? So this is why we say it's one level up from just being a marketplace, because the original kind of marketing on this was very much limited to drop shipping, and it was getting stuff from China and sending it to the US kind of model, right? So you get stuff from Alibaba and so on. So anyway, moving on a bit more from this, one thing that we'll touch on a bit later on as well is that the technology foundations for this are important. Amazon, Alibaba, Etsy, eBay, they would not be there where they are today without the right technology foundation. They spent millions on their technology. And a lot of that technology was built to allow third-party sellers to engage into their platforms, right? Vendor onboarding is the key pillar of making collaboration happen, right? I mean, if people could not create an account on a social media site, social media wouldn't be there where it is today. It's all about the initial touch point. So this is where the technology becomes a core part of this strategy. And obviously this being a transformation event, everybody would be interested in knowing about the technology. So we'll cover that a bit later. But the one thing that we need to also talk about now going forward is the evolution of commerce, right? And what we want to do here is to just explain how we got here very quickly, right? So if you go back a number of years, when e-commerce first came out, it was a good idea. Everybody started to create single channel websites, and you would say I have an e-commerce website, and you're selling about 4 items on it. And it was good until the larger businesses picked up and they thought, yeah, I mean, this is going to work for us. And they started to spend a lot of money and started creating their online stores. And then the smaller guys just couldn't compete, right? But then as technology got better, some of the more independent retailers, online retailers, started to make headway. But then the second wave came within the single entity businesses, where they started creating omni-channel. So you can now go in store, you can go online, you can do it on mobile, you can do it on point of sale, and so on. And then from multi-channel, they moved to omni-channel. So it was now you could go to a couple of places. Now you can pretty much touch that e-commerce business from all over the place. And the world started to catch up. You also had at this point a point where platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce and Magento and WordPress, which is WooCommerce, started to give people the ability to create their stores very quickly. So no longer did you need an army of people to create an online store. You also had the ability to have a very small business-focused team creating their online stores and starting to compete. Then we had this era, which was probably around 2005 to 2006, when we started to see affiliate marketplaces starting to pick up. And the single entity business is just a business on its own. And what that means is that if I bring you in here, a single entity business looks something like this. They have a web store, a mobile store, a third party, eBay, whatever. They have a POS terminal, and everything runs out of their own warehouse. They do all the deliveries. It's effectively a well-contained business. But the size of the business is limited to the size of the warehouse or the cost of inventory or whatever. There isn't an on-demand model that they can facilitate. Yeah. Now, when we move back to any questions on this, Gary? What do you want to say?
No, all good. Very
Cool.
nice.
All right. So then we move into multi-entity businesses, and multi-entity businesses are where businesses are starting to reach out to other businesses and saying, can we work with you, right? Can we sell your stuff for a commission, or can we collaborate somehow? And the first part of that was affiliate marketplaces. And affiliate marketplaces, what they did was you'd go to a site, you search for something. When you hit the buy button, you were taken off to the other person's site, and they would give you 1 or 2% commission. And it was good, but it wasn't a sustainable model because you never owned the customer, right? So you'd spend a lot of money driving traffic to your website to take 1 or 2% off, and you were never sure whether you actually made the sale on the other end or not. Then the second wave came in, and they're the ones who are really big today, right? So the second waves being the eBays, the Amazons, these big marketplaces that came along. And they realized very early that if they created a marketplace and allowed third parties to start selling into their business, and then they sold that to the customer, they effectively have a very large inventory pool that your standard businesses could not compete with. It took them a long time to get there, though. I mean, Amazon is really big now, but it took them years to get to there, right? Because the technology part of it is so complex to build. and the whole networking around it was so complex to build. So they started building that, and they are what we call aggregator platforms, right? So whereas they will get everything together, and then the customers will buy, but then behind the scenes, Amazon or eBay, they control the narrative around that. So a lot of people then started finding it was more successful to end up going on Amazon or eBay or Etsy and selling stuff there because they provided a single point and lots of customers on the other side, a true marketplace and a good network effect. But as the market started to mature, the third wave, which I would say probably started about 4 years ago, right? Realistically, started to come in, which is marketplaces as we know them, businesses wanting to move to a marketplace model, and they did not want to be on aggregator marketplace. They wanted to create their
Is
own
that
brands. Yeah.
question? What were some of the pain points of traditional affiliate and platform aggregator? Just to give you an example, what I'm saying is
Yeah.
the whole commission model, right? Or if I have to uh, sell something which I don't own and the customer wants it, it was as raw as me calling the partner asking, do you have this? How much is it? Then going back on price war
Yeah.
of how much will you have? And then going back and telling the customer, it used to be a very manual process,
It
right?
was, and I
What
think
are some of the other challenges?
so. One of the big problems with affiliate was the fact that you never actually had an integration, a real integration. So you would be selling stuff that was already out of stock on an affiliate site. So you would be showing it's available on a price, maybe the price has gone up, but there was also never any guarantee on the other side. It was effectively you just sending some stuff across, and then it's like sending people and saying go there, and then they go there, and it's closed. You know what I mean? So trackability on that was not great. The other thing that was very bad on the affiliate side was that the cost of marketing was very high to drive that many customers and then have them bounce off to a vendor, because there was no way for you to get them back, if you know what I mean, to come and do a transaction through you again. And this is probably one of the biggest problems that they had in the affiliate marketplaces. Now, funnily enough, it's the same problem that you have in the aggregator marketplaces because you don't own the customer, right? You sell into the marketplace, but you don't own the customer. You don't know the customer. You will get customer information, but it's Amazon's data, right? You are selling on their platform, you live by their rules. That's probably one of the biggest problems that they've had with Amazon, was the fact that Amazon has rules for its own sellers that come onto the platform, but also there is very little control in that space in terms of how much margin you can make, also how much fees you have to pay out for those kinds of things. But again, the core part of these first two models was not owning the customer. Because if you think about the marketplaces that have spawned up and they are billion-dollar companies, they're not because they have really good tech, it's because they have a lot of customers. And that customer
Yeah.
data is theirs. Their valuation is based on the number of customers and the GMV that they drive, which is the gross merchandise value. So the inherent problems in these two, the first one was obviously the control, and obviously not knowing much, and the margins were just so low. I mean, 1 or 2%, 1.5% on an affiliate referral is very, very small, and you have to do a lot of sales to make a lot of money out of that one. On the second one, you do make money. There are people who trade on it daily. They make a lot of money, but the problem is, if you are doing well, you're doing well, but you don't have a customer list. If you try going against that model and saying, I need to raise my investment against the fact that I'm a business in Amazon, you won't, because there's hardly anything there as a brand equity there. So
Okay.
those are the two
Let me
inherent
ask
problems.
you,
Yeah.
let me ask you, thank you, Shazad. I think this is very helpful. Some of the questions we are getting from the audience as well is, what would be the specific benefit of collaborative commerce for B2B, B2C, and D2C?
So from a B2B perspective, from a B2C perspective, from a collaborative commerce perspective, so the one thing is that if you create your own marketplace, from a B2C perspective, you own the customer. That's
Yeah.
the biggest benefit, right? The other benefit from a B2C perspective is that you can offer a lot of choice on your platform, on your marketplace, than you would otherwise be able to do if you were trying to stock everything, right? So if today, for example, you as a single vendor have, I don't know, 10,000 products that you're pushing out, and you then add in, I don't know, 100 other vendors, and your SKU count has gone from 10,000 to 100,000. Now suddenly you are competing at a level where people will come to you because you can obviously get better preferential rates and prices, and build better commission structures around that. So you can actually build a real business around it. So that's the
Yeah.
clear B2C benefit, right? Owning the customer, and obviously owning the brand. You can then curate um, a marketplace that is more designed for the audience that you're going after.
Right.
From
Just
a
a follow-on
B2B
question
perspective, yeah.
before we move to B2B and D2C. A follow-up question is, there are many small businesses, MSMEs, right? What types of options are available for them? Do they require a lot of technical know-how to implement this? What can they use?
Right. So the thing to keep in mind is that there are three types of technology structures in the marketplace to be able to do this today. And I don't mean marketplace as in that marketplace, but in the market. So you have your traditional, your traditional enterprise model, right? You buy the software license, you spend 6 months building it, you get a development team behind it, and it costs you a few million to get into the market, right? The ROI on
Yeah.
that is very, very expensive and time consuming. The other one is a halfway house, whereby you have kind of pre-built markets. They provide a fair amount of automation. There's a bit of a cloud structure, but then you need to get some specialists involved because they are more API based, and then you need to do development and that kind of stuff. And then every time you need to integrate with a third-party seller, you'd end up having to do that automation piece yourself. So that again is going to cost you a bit, but probably will cut down the time in half. So maybe 6 months it will take you to try and get to the market. The other side is where we sit. Just a shameless plug for ourselves, but we sit on the other side, which is you can get to market in 30 minutes. Right? That's our USP. Why? Because when we got into this game, we realized that there was no way that you could launch a marketplace as quickly as you could launch an online store, right? So you could go to Shopify and launch, or go to BigCommerce and launch your online store in an hour. You can't create a marketplace in 6 months, right? And the cost was astronomical, right? I won't go into the numbers of the cost, but the cost is astronomical. I mean, in terms of getting an ROI, you'll be looking at 3 years, right? With us, the ROI is going to be a month, right? And you can launch as faster than Shopify. The reason is that that's where the market is moving, right? People can't wait 2 years because the whole landscape would have changed by then. I mean, our
Yeah.
market moves so quickly, we can't wait that long to get in there. But the whole thing is that if you look at the how mature the technology now is, I mean, we operate in 86 countries, so we're fairly mature in terms of how we built our tech. But the thing is, we have to be global. We have to be able to allow businesses to communicate cross borders. We have to allow those things to happen, because then you are creating a true collaborative model. And for the B2B market, if you think about it, a platform that can allow you to onboard your vendors within 5 or 10 minutes by connecting to their systems, right, means that you have a marketplace. Always remember, no vendors, no third-party sellers, there's no marketplace. There's no collaboration happening. It's all in-house, right? Or you can even connect internally to your own other business units, but you still have two separate entities to connect to. And if you can't do that quickly, and if our view always is that if a business person can sit down, conceive a business, launch a business, they have a business, right? If a business person sits down, thinks of a business, conceives a business, and then spends 6 months trying to work out how the tech is going to work, they probably would have lost the boat by the time they get to market.
Yeah.
So from a B2B perspective, sorry?
And D2C?
So B2C we covered, direct to customer, right? Or B2C.
Direct to customer. How does collaborative commerce?
So D2C, again, from a direct to customer perspective, we also have these models which have now spawned up quite heavily, whereby you have what we call multi-sided marketplaces where the buyers and the sellers connect, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you've got, I mean, you've got something whereby you're selling something and somebody's going to buy off you directly, but you are the facilitator in the middle. And there are a lot of these marketplaces that are coming up for selling secondhand goods or selling services directly and so on. And those marketplaces, again, will benefit because both parties need to be onboarded into the platform to be able to.
So let me give an example here,
Yeah.
mainly for the audiences from India, right? So if I'm the owner of a manufacturing equipment, let's say microwaves,
Yeah.
or let's say air conditioners, right? Air conditioners require services.
Yes.
So I'm leaving a lot of that money on the table if the third parties are doing it and it's not happening through me. So I'm a D2C here, right? So one of the things I can launch as a marketplace is I can have the vendors, the people who are installing the air conditioner, register as a vendor to me,
Yeah.
and then I can have those guys hooked up to the installation centers. Think of it as what we use in Urban Clap.
Yeah.
That is a marketplace just for services.
Yeah.
But now I have the power not only to sell the products, but also the services which gets bundled into the products. I can create a lot of um, you know, advertising. I can give a lot of discounts and so on and so forth as well.
Yes. So you're, I mean, in our view, you're now talking about a true collaborative model, right? Because
Yes.
right now, I mean, so the use case that we give our customers is we say to them that you probably don't know this now, but at some point you will need to start collaborating with businesses other than that sell physical stuff, right? There will be digital products as well as services. So the example we give, which is similar to what you're talking about, is we say that if you go to an electronics shop online and then you say, I need to buy a TV, I need to buy a bracket, and I need to get that TV fitted on my wall, right? And you'd say, I want the TV delivered, I want the bracket to be collected from the store and some cables, and I want the guy to come up on the 13th of February to come and fit it on my wall. Can I do that in one transaction? Because that's what the customer wants, right?
Yeah.
And that's exactly where collaborative commerce will excel because it's not about drop shipping as we mentioned at the top. It's about being able to join up businesses of different types into a single transaction. So
Yeah.
one of the
Yeah.
things
So
that, yeah,
yeah, that makes sense. I think we just to be cautious on the time, we have 7 minutes left. I would like to spend time on some of the details on MarketCube as we are receiving some questions on total cost of ownership. How do we start getting on a marketplace? So let's leave last 3-4 minutes. If you can open up the MarketCube website and give us a walkthrough. Before that, is there anything else you want to showcase on your presentation, Shazan?
No, I think there, I mean, the one thing that I wanted to show was basically this model, which is what you should take away from it, that single entity businesses, when connected with third-party sellers, effectively creates your collaborative commerce. It doesn't stop you doing
Yeah.
what you do today, but your warehouse just becomes a lot smaller. And then you've got third-party sellers that can add in a lot of, a lot of vans and a lot of deliveries and all that kind of stuff back into your business. And all of this is back into you because at this point, at the start of the point, you own the customer, and you can go back to that customer and sell them more stuff and increase. I mean, just to give a very quick update on MarketCube, we can probably go to marketcube.io. Let me know when you can see the website. Are you able to see it?
Yes, we can see the browser. You can load the website. Yeah.
Can you see the website? I've loaded it.
Yes. Yes, we can.
Right. So we call ourselves Marketplace as a Service. We have a very cost-effective cost structure. We provide integrations into most common platforms as we list here, but we also provide dual-sided connections as well. So for vendors who are running their stores already can connect through MarketCube, and operators who are running stores already can set up a marketplace through our model. The platform itself is 100% cloud. There is a private cloud option, but it's pure cloud. It's no code. It's self-service. We do provide full onboarding. We provide the done for you kind of services. So we'll do everything for you if you want. But the model is very simple, and the whole thing is it's about getting you out to market as quickly as possible. And And this is our main USP. It's 30 minutes. You can set up this whole platform, connect it to your store, and have a product live for sale in 30 minutes.
So how much would it cost me if, let's say, if I'm on a Shopify store and I am a single business without a multi-marketplace, what would be the cost of ownership for me if I were to go with MarketCube?
So we basically have three plans. We start at 299 per month USD, going up to 799 USD, and we put some limits on the number of vendors and products you can put in. We don't take any transactional charges. We don't do any limits on the number of orders you can take. But if you think about this, the 299, I mean, you should be able to recover this money very quickly in terms of the amount of orders that you're taking. Now, it depends on whether you are a new startup and you're launching versus an existing business that already has scale in terms of you have an average, run rate that you can work off. Recovering this money and the initial plan gives you enough to launch a marketplace. And again, remember, if you can get your marketplace up and running within, I mean, you can get the structure set up in 30 minutes. You'll need to get your vendors and everybody aligned. So let's say even if you get that in 14 days, we still give you a 30-day trial, right? So you should be up and running in the time that you can start recovering money from the marketplace. And then
Okay,
you can
thank
build on it and you can scale as big as you want because we can support it.
Okay, so I just got a confirmation we can continue for another 15 minutes, so we have
Right.
more time. And looks like the audience is quite well connected. We are getting lots of questions.
Right.
So if you could, thank you, Shazad, this is very helpful. If you could help us, let's run through a use case, right?
Yeah.
Let's say if I'm a clothes manufacturer, right? And I provide clothes to foreign countries. Obviously, they put their own brand and tag, but I have my own brand as well, let's say here in India, right? And my channels are, I have my own shops. I obviously distribute it to bigger brands, and I also sell it online, right? Now, if I were to start using a marketplace solution, then what are some of the challenges that I would face when we transition from a single entity to a marketplace? How would it impact my current business continuity? If you could just give us a brief overview of the onboarding using this example, that will really help our audiences to understand better in a very layman's term.
Yeah, so I think one thing that you need, and I'll probably go back a few steps and then start explaining what you're saying. But I think the basic question is, if I go from being a single entity business to a marketplace,
What are the
what are the
challenges?
things I need? Yeah, what are the things I need to think about? So one of the biggest things that you need to think about is that you are no longer operating as a single business. So everything that you do now has other businesses involved. So if you think about a transaction, when an order is placed, you're not the one fulfilling it. Your vendor is going to be fulfilling it, or you might be fulfilling it on behalf of your vendor. It might be a click and collect. So the first part, I suppose, in all of this is understanding the business model that you're going to operate in, right? If you today feel that, fine, we're just going to push some orders off to our vendors and we're happy with dropship, as in they can deliver to our customers, then that's fine. But the things that you need to keep in mind is there are a couple of things which are very specific in marketplaces compared to what you do with traditional commerce. So in a traditional commerce sense, when a customer places an order and they pay for that order, they effectively are dealing with one single order, which
Yeah.
doesn't change in our model. They still deal with one single order. The difference happens on the back end because now this order is not your order. It's probably split between 4 different other vendors.
Yeah.
Which means that they all have to charge separately for their shipping and their fulfillment will happen at different times or in different ways. So you need to understand how all of that is going to work, right? We provide a lot of consultancy on that side and we'll help you, flesh out your business model. But the biggest challenge is pretty much understanding how this transaction flow is going to work. The other biggest challenge, which I think is probably bigger than the first one, is how do you get your vendors to come on board, right? So you have the technology, you can get them onboarded, you can invite them in, they can set up an account in 5 minutes, not a problem. But how do you go out to market and say that we're a marketplace and we want to work with you on an on-demand basis, right? This requires you to create a very clear model of understanding how these businesses will connect with you. The one thing you have to keep in mind is that it's not only your own business process, it's their business process, right? They need to now understand that I'm going to get an order from this place. How do I deal with that order? How do I deal with it in a timely fashion? How do I integrate? What if I put products up there which I haven't updated, and the inventories run out, but I'm still getting orders? So those kinds of things, whether they're what we call a manual vendor because they don't have any automation or they don't have an online existence today, or there are somebody who are already live and you can do a live connect with them through us. So those challenges will remain, and the best way that we can talk about it is we need to first work out very quickly is how you are set up as a business to model that. Now we take away a lot of the pain for you. I mean, I'd say about 80-90% of the pain goes away. But business process management, when something starts from the customer, comes to you, goes to the vendor, then comes to you, then goes back to the vendor, that business process has to be mapped. And in that, there are there are three things that you need to work out. One is, how do you get the vendor onboarded? Two, how do you do product management and order fulfillment, right? And then the third is, you have to think about taxes, you have to think about payouts, you have to think about commissions, right? How are you going to earn out of this marketplace? And these things have to be set up front. So for example, an average kind of consumer base that we have would probably charge between 12 and 18% commission per sale, which is very healthy. There are some who charge quite astronomically high, but that's an average that comes in. So if you're going to charge 12 to 18% and you go out to market and you tell somebody that we would like you to join our marketplace, what are you going to give them for that 12, 18%? The point that you would normally run into very quickly is people would say, well, why should I join your marketplace? What is the cost to me, right? And most people won't join the marketplace if there's a cost to it, right? So this is why our model doesn't ask for any money from them, and you shouldn't either. You shouldn't be charging any subscription fees. Why? Because they don't see the value of your network yet. And you need to build your network before you can start charging against it if you need to. But Amazon doesn't charge you. It charges you on the vendor side for Prime and other services that it does for you, but it doesn't charge you for just existing on the platform, right? It will charge you their commission and their things on it. But this is what you need to think about. So those are effectively the three areas, as I said, right? You need to think about onboarding the vendor first. You need
So
to
let
think
me go a
about,
little bit, let me go a little bit deep dive on this, right? So let's say my online store, the single entity store I have is on Shopify, right?
yeah.
How will my vendor partner products start getting listed through MarketCube? How will the current website work? Will I have to change anything on the website? Or
No.
just from a business perspective, how does it work? What is the magic?
So yeah, that is the magic. So there are a couple of models, right? There's people who provide marketplace platform, which is what we call all-in-one platforms. They'll give you the front end, they'll give you the commerce engine, and they will give you the B2B capabilities. The problem is that most businesses don't work like that. Most businesses have already invested in a Shopify or BigCommerce or WooCommerce or whatever, and they're already running their online store.
Yeah.
And now they want to bring in multi-vendor capabilities or multi-seller capabilities. The question then is it going to take me months to just change the whole site because I have to now fit what you were doing? No,
Yeah.
because the only thing that's happening is that we're posting the product data to your e-commerce database in place of you putting it there yourself.
Oh, now I understand.
Right. So
So
there is no
basically,
change whatsoever.
everything.
You can, yeah.
Okay. So let's say if I have my database, right, and I now have a way of getting the vendor products. It may be through a CSV file, or it may be through a direct integration from their BigCommerce to our Shopify or
Yeah.
some other systems. So everything changes in the back end, and
Yeah.
the front end is able to just render more products. I can sell more products.
Yes.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah. Because see, the thing is, the painful part here is getting data from one point, transforming it, and then pushing it to another point. And that is the power of our automation. This is what we do. Otherwise, if you were try doing that for everything that you pull in, you won't be getting there quickly enough. So
Okay.
we do all of that for you. But the thing is, see, for commerce owners, see, the thing we think about is that a marketplace automation platform like ours is a commodity service. we are not the service. We are a commodity service. We give you all the tools to be able to run a marketplace. You run your business because that's where you make your money. That's what you're good at. So, for example, you wouldn't go and say, okay, I have AWS or I have Google Cloud. No, I should go back now to start hosting my own servers. You wouldn't go back to that now. You would use them because they give you the ability to just have a managed service. So that's what we provide. We are not the marketplace. You are the marketplace. We are the facilitators of the two sides, right? So the collaboration between you and your vendor happens through us, and you have full control. You can brand it, you can white label it. I mean, nobody would know us that we're in there, and a lot of the marketplaces that run us as white label. So even if you went there, you wouldn't know that MarketCube was running behind them. But that's how it should be, right? That's how you democratize this technology, not by charging, a few million to get a marketplace launched. And then, you have to scale that massively to be able to even get your return on an investment. And by that time, the market's moving. Market in our view, the market was changing quite a lot, every 18 months. Since the pandemic, market is changing every couple of months now. Online commerce has basically skyrocketed. I mean, our platform grew 1,000% during the pandemic, because everybody wanted to get online, and everybody thought if I could connect to somebody else and I can start selling, that's the way to go about it. But then they suddenly found that there was some technology that could do this. But the market cycle has shortened.
As they say, that pandemic was the biggest cause of the largest digital transformation in the history of human mankind.
I mean, if you think about it, it's a behavior change, right? So when we were looking at our reports, we thought 2025 is when this is going to start to mature, when businesses will start to really leverage into this. That happened over the course of 6 months for us in 2020. And then in 2021, it just went crazy. I mean, businesses that were sitting on the sidelines, and I'm talking about really big businesses that thought it would be a good idea to we need this now. And then they went out and they looked at other platforms and they said, fine, we can do this. We'll do all of that. It will take you 6 months to a year. And they said, no, we need it now. We launched an enterprise that contacted us on a Thursday and they went live on a Wednesday. That's how quickly we went. We took a company which onboarded 98 vendors over a weekend and went live on a Monday. Right? Wow. Because that's the power of that speed, right? If you don't have speed in this market and the automation that can power all of that, I mean, you can spend a lot of time building it. But why? As I said, the AWS example is, we used to have creating our own data centers. Would you do it now? I don't think so. You want the speed.
All right. So here's the last question. Actually, I have two more questions and then we should be done. I think one of the questions was, how is Unicommerce different from collaborative commerce?
So, I mean, Uni by its manifestation is singular, and that's effectively a single entity business that we talked about.
Right? Yeah. Right. So it's a similar to the single entity commerce that we were talking about. So
yes, today, I mean, it's difficult for businesses to remain single entity because so many businesses are looking to bring third parties in just to expand their assortment, right? In commerce, assortment is king, right? So you won't be able to get anywhere close to just staying as a single business because your cost of operations will not match theirs because they will be constantly reducing them. You'll be increasing them every time you scale up.
Okay. So let me do a debrief and key takeaways from this session, right? What we talked about is the evolution of commerce, how it started from a single entity commerce to omni-channel, to affiliates, to collaborative, and now which is where the industry is going in terms of the collaborative commerce. The other thing that we talked about was how easy it is to set up a multi-marketplace through marketcube.io. You guys can go to the website, marketcube.io. Shahzad, you can show the URL on the screen as well to start.
So it's there. If you could, I don't know if you can see that on my screen, but
yes, you can see that. And then I think the other key takeaway is a lot of audiences might be from small and medium businesses. I think one of the things that we advise you to look at is the world is the limit now. Do not limit yourself to your particular sector, your particular city, or even your state or India. Think global, act local. And this is one of the ways that you can increase not only your revenue, but also your brand positioning. You might be a small brand today, but if you're able to expand into the world, there is someone sitting out there in London or US or somewhere in Australia or Asia who needs your product. And the only way they can know about your product is once you're online, once you're able to showcase your products, but also your partner products into one ecosystem, into one platform. So that's the power of collaborative commerce. And we hope you guys liked the session. And feel free to connect with us offline as well in case you have any more questions. I would highly encourage to visit our successive booths for more information on the e-commerce solutions. And before I close out, I would like to take this opportunity to thank CII and CGT once again for extending this opportunity. I would also like to congratulate the team of CGT for bringing in the best minds together in the field of digital technologies on DX Summit 3.0. We really look forward to the future sessions that has been scheduled ahead. I think tomorrow we are also participating from Successive Technologies. And thank you, Shahzad, for gracing the sessions with your presence.
Thank you very much. And I'd just like to add on one thing that if you think it's not possible, talk to us. It is.
Yes, it's very simple.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Shahzad.
Thank you.
Thank you. Shall we disconnect now?
Thank you, Gaurav, for moderating the session. My sincere thanks to all the dignitaries for your time and valuable insight. With this, we come to an end of the day's play, and we will come back with the third day of the DX Summit tomorrow with the session on moving towards connected sustainability mobility at 10:30 a.m. Thank you once again. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Shahzad.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.